All right, you should have this page torn out. It's page 223. It's for lesson 7-8. Okay, right before this page, it's page 221. Are these cutouts right here. You're going to go ahead and have these cut out. If you don't have them cut out and or don't have this paper ready yet, go ahead and pause the video and get this done, and then push play again to resume the video. Alright, so I'm assuming that you've gotten them cut and you're pushing play again because you are ready. Alright, so these shapes, we're going to be talking about doing shares, equal shares, and we're going to be doing things like making them into 2 equal shares and into 4 equal shares. But first we're going to start with 2 equal shares. So what I want you to do is first start with this green rectangle, and I want you to see how many ways you can fold it so that you would have 2 shares. So pretend this is like a candy bar for you and your friend. Okay, so maybe it's like a nice big Hershey's flat candy bar. What are the ways that you could cut it? Okay, don't actually use your scissors, but you're going to fold to show the marks. You're going to go ahead and pause the video and see how many ways you can fold it. You know, folding it however you want, but when you do fold it, the 2 parts that are on either side of the fold need to be the same. Alright, go ahead and try it with this one. Alright, if you have done this, one way to have folded it, we could fold it in half this way. Try to line up the corners as best as we possibly can. Okay, and if I open it up, you can see that these 2 shares are the same size. Now, is there another way you could fold it, some way different? Pretend that fold didn't happen. You could have also folded it lengthwise. So the first way we folded it was widthwise. We can also fold it lengthwise, and you can see that these would be the 2 equal shares, okay, the either side, these big long rectangles. All right, now there actually is a third way that you could share it, but you wouldn't be able to do it folding it. You would actually have to cut it. You could cut it from corner to corner. Okay, you don't need to be cutting yours, just go ahead and hold on to yours. Okay, so if I cut it, you'll see that if I turned this direction and lined them up, that you would see that they are the same. It's just not really, it's not possible though to fold it. So this wouldn't be, some of you have started learning about in class before we left about lines of symmetry. You wouldn't, this would not be a line of symmetry though, because if you folded it on it, see how it overlaps. Okay, so it is not symmetrical, but it is equal shares. So when we're talking about cutting something in half, this is a way of cutting something in half that's a rectangle. All right, and same thing with the square. Go ahead and pause the video. Now that you've seen the rectangle, maybe you can figure out this special rectangle. What are the different ways you could fold that one? Go ahead and pause it and try it on your own. All right, I think you've tried it on your own. Again, you will have noticed probably that you can fold it this direction. It is a square, so even, they would still be the same sizes when you fold it this other way, but you could fold it this other way. And yes, you've identified that, in fact, this one, you could fold it this way if you go from corner to corner. So you couldn't do it with the rectangle, but you could fold it with the square. Okay, and those 2 triangles that are formed are the same sizes. Okay, this one actually is a line of symmetry because you can see that when you do fold it, that the sides line up. Okay, so this one does have a line of symmetry and they are equal shares, okay, on both sides. All right, the circle. Now that's an interesting one. Go ahead and fold that one where you can see how many of those could you, how many ways could you fold that to share it? Push pause and try it out. All right, so maybe some of you folded it this way, right? Maybe some of you folded it this way. Maybe some of you folded it this way. Or maybe some of you folded it this way. What are you noticing about as I'm folding it? Because each time I'm folding it, the 2 semicircles, the 2 half of the circles, are still the same. right? So if it was cut, if it was folded here, this side and this side are my two. If it was folded on this line right here, this half and this half would be it. So there are a lot of different ways you could cut this. If this was a pie, I could take my knife and I could cut it this way. I could cut it this way. I could cut it this direction. Either way, as long as it's going through the center into the edges, you've got two equal shares. So this one has pretty much an innumerable, infinity amount of times that you could fold it just by little micro pieces. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at this page right here. You're going to have this in front of you. We're going to do this page and the other side together, and then you're going to have a homework page to practice on your own. So that way you've seen it all done once, and then you're going to practice on your own. All right, so it wants us to draw a line to show halves. Now halves is what we call the two parts that are the fair parts. So here's the triangle, or the rectangles. This would be one half, this would be the other half. So it wants us to do it in halves, which means two parts. So we're going to share this one in two parts, and we're going to color one of the parts when we're done. So you can draw your line going, whoops, I'm sorry it's not exactly in the middle, but this is just a practice anyway, right? So you could, I'm drawing my line here. You could draw your line this direction. You could also choose to draw your line going this way. Once you're done drawing your line, to cut it in half, but you're only drawing one line, by the way, okay? But just which way you draw the line is up to you. When you're done, you're going to go ahead and color in one of those parts. And again, I know that this part looks a little bigger than this part, but that is just kind of how it got drawn. But the intention is that it's in half. All right. How about this one? If we cut that into two, we could cut that, maybe I want to go this direction. There we go, that's much better, a half thing. So did it cut it into two parts that are pretty equal? Yes. So this would be one half. It's been cut into halves, okay, which means the two parts of the halves, okay, which would be halves, that's plural. All right, let's look at this one. You could choose to go across. I'm going to go across. Let's try and get the best. Yeah, my pen is not doing what I want it to do. All right, I'm going to cut it that direction. You could choose to go this way. Again, you could choose to go one of the other ways, but only one line should be drawn to cut it into half. All right, and then you're going to go ahead and color in one half. All right, how about this one? We could go straight down, we could go across, we could go down the middle this way and down the middle this way. I'm going to choose this direction. Again, you can choose any way that you want as long as it's only one line cutting it into two equal parts. And I'm going to go ahead and color in this one right here because we're coloring in one of the halves. Alright, so down here it wants us to color things into fourths. Now, let's go back to our shapes. Okay, so if I was doing something in fourths, notice that I first went like this. Okay, how many pieces would I have? I would have 1 and 2. If I then took each of those halves and cut them in half again, I would have 4 equal parts. So if I folded it here and then folded it this way, okay, that would make 4 parts, and I'll draw those lines for you. Okay, it could go here, and then I could cut it across going this way. This would make 4 equal parts. All right, so that would be fourths. Let's look at this one. If I have, let's pretend it's back together again. I could have drawn that where I went down, and then I could go across. Okay. Now you can't go across and then across again. Why? Because this one would end up being like an equilateral triangle, okay? And this one would be a really long triangle, so you can't cut that way and that way. For this one, you could do two different things. You could cut it in half this way first, and then in half this way. Or you could start by cutting it, let me get this line back up, probably should have had 2 of these. I could cut it this direction, and then I would have 2 squares, right? And then after I cut it into the two squares, I could take each of the squares and I could cut each of them in half this way. Okay, so pretend this is the full square. I could go again going this direction. All right, and then I would have the four different parts. Those would also be fourths. Okay, same thing. So with a circle though, we're only going to be able to go across and then across the opposite way. All right, so let's go ahead and practice that over here. We're going to draw lines to show fourths. So for this one, I'm going to do what I did in that picture where I first cut it in half this direction. And I could cut it in half going this way, and all those four rectangles would be the same. Or I could take these and I could cut them again on the width sides, okay? Which is what I'm going to do for this one, because I'll do something different for the next problem. All right, so that's in fourths, as best as we can get it. And then we're going to go ahead and color in 1/4, which is one of the fourths. Okay? All right, over here with this one, with the square, I'm going to do it the other way, where I cut it in half this direction, and then I cut it this direction. And we're going to color in one of those fourths. Okay? All right, look at this one. Now, what is different is this one, remember how I told you you couldn't go this way and that way with the cuts? Well, because squares are different, okay, let's pretend that, let's practice with this first and see. If I cut it on the diagonal, okay, and then I cut it on the other diagonal, try to get this line back up, well, let's just do this, let's turn it around, okay, and line them up like I had before, okay, and then I could cut it going down this way. All right, and those ones are going to all end up being the same. Now I know I could have turned this one around, but when we're drawing the lines for this one, it wouldn't have worked. This one I could draw the lines going crisscross and it would come out the same. So you notice that these are all the same shape. Okay, so let's try that one with a drawing version. So over here, I'm going to go on the diagonals. So I'm going to go from one point, one corner, to the other corner. And then I'm going to pretend that I'm cutting it again from this corner to this corner. And you'll notice that all of these triangles, they're all pointing in towards each other, but they are all the same. So this works. As long as it's a square, you can cut it at the corners on a picture. If it was a rectangle, you could still make them all the same, but it would be difficult to do. Okay, so these ones are easy to be able to make the same shape. All right, so let's look over here at this circle. What way can we do it? Well, again, remember to do over here. Sorry, let's go back over here. Let's color in one of the fourths. Went a little too fast for myself, I guess. All right, over to the circle now. You can go ahead and draw your first line any direction you want. So let's pretend I wanted to go this way, and I cut it in half. I can go any direction for my first cut, but in order for it to be, so see right now I've got the two halves, they are the same. In order for it to be equal fourths, when I do my second cut, it's got to be like a cross, right? Just like a letter T. I would have to find the place that is sort of in the middle. If this is like a rainbow right here, I would need to almost find the top of that rainbow there, and I would need to sort of find the top, pretend it's a smiley face. I would need to find the very middle of the smiley face here. Okay, that's where I would need to draw my line in order to think 4 equal parts. All right, and we're going to go ahead and color in one of those parts. Go ahead and turn over the paper and let's look at what it wants us to do. Just some more practice cutting it up. Okay, so it says 4 friends want to share a sandwich. How can they cut the sandwich into 4 equal shares? So again, you're taking this shape and making it into 4 equal shares. How would you want to do that? Okay, you could do it going down and then cutting across. If you want to, you could also choose to go diagonally and diagonally, because remember with a square you can do that and the shapes would be the same. All right, let's look at this one. It says 4 friends want to share a pie for dessert. How can they cut the pie in 4 equal shares? Oh, sorry, let's go back up here. I'm forgetting to color. Go ahead and color in one of the 4s, because it wants you to color in each share. It wants you to actually color each share a different color, so I'm going to have to grab myself a couple colors here. And you can grab yourself a couple colors as well. I'm going to call this one, I don't know, black. And I'm going to color in blue, because these are the colors I've got close to me. Alright, and maybe I'll color this one red. And maybe I'll leave the other one blank and call it white. Okay? Alright, so those would be the 4 shares, all in different colors. Alright, so how about this one with the pie? Again, doesn't matter where your first cut goes. If we're cutting it into 4ths, which means 4 equal pieces, we can go, maybe I want to go this way this time. Okay? Doesn't matter where your first cut is, but the important part is looking at the half circles when you're done and finding the outer point. Okay? If this was a rainbow, this would be the top of the rainbow. If this were a rainbow, okay, going this direction, this would be the top of the rainbow. So my second cut would have to go through. You'll see that you've made square corners. Remember we talked about square corners in a previous lesson, okay? These would be square corners. So the inside points where they meet are all square corners, and you notice the shapes are all the same. So again, I'm going to color one of them with my black pen. I'm going to color in a little bit with blue. It doesn't matter which colors you've chosen, it just wants us to have 4 different colors. Okay, and I'm going to have this one be red. And we're going to leave that one white to be the 4th color. Alright, if we look at this one, number 11, one friend only wants 1/2 of her granola bar. How can she cut her granola bar into halves? So it wants you to draw a line to show 2 equal shares, ways that you could share equally in 2 ways. So again, with this one, since it's only 2 shares you're doing, you have 3 different choices. You could cut it across this way, you could cut it across this direction, and you could go diagonally, either diagonally this way or you could go diagonally that direction. I'm going to go diagonally for fun. Now remember, it won't work if you're going, if you are going the other way. The shares wouldn't look the same. Okay, so if it's 4ths, you couldn't use this one with a rectangle. I'm going to color one of them blue. And this time I'm going to color the other one red. And there aren't any other colors, so we're done with that one. Alright, you should be able to do the bottom portion on your own. You're going to go ahead and just finish this page up, and then practice doing halves and 4ths on your homework page. Good luck!